I will speak into a couple of points that are relevant for the group in response as well. What first? Okay, so the Merkaba is a beautiful protection piece. So that was mine for a really long time until I claimed God's protection. And now I don't use anything. I just know that God is my protector and I released all armor and things. But when you work with the Merkaba too, or any geometry, so one specific symbol might come up for you, which is really strong for your unique signature, is when you see it and if you can start to actually become it and know that you are the protection of that signature, so that when you are out and about doing life and things that you have that within you. Because when we are, it's all good and well to say when I'm connected to source I'm fully safe and protected, but how often am I fully connected to source? And being really realistic in different times, sometimes you might be going through massive initiations and journeying the underworld and you're like actually not protected at all, barely, because trust me, I've been there, babe. I get it. and you gotta be really discerning of, okay, I gotta grid my house, I gotta grid my floors, these are the things that I need to do to keep myself safe at the moment. But it's not an always thing. So that's one piece. The other thing is around transitioning and what is the point to say this? Feel like everything I want to say, I don't want to say at the same time. So just aware of that. There is a lot of transitioning that's taking place to transition the planet. How we see, perceive, and receive that is going to be different for everyone. A transition could be an ego death. A transition could be someone leaving our physical experience in that they go on a different journey. It could mean physical death as well. There's so many different ways that we can interpret transitioning, and we can receive vision and information on what might be coming through to activate us to clear, grieve, and move through things so that we actually see the truth. So sometimes your higher self will say or show you something to help you heal. So that can be something that does happen. So discerning whether or not you're seeing a vision as a way to assist you in finding the truth is important. Is it a vision of actuality? And what is the likelihood of that vision shifting and changing? Is it the highest timeline, or is it just what's being shown to me at this point in time? And so that's where see how there's so many different ways that that can be interpreted, and that we do have choice. And yeah, it's challenging. It is challenging, especially if we're still really stuck on our narratives around death and life. So just be very gentle on yourself with any of these things that might be coming up, because apparently they seem to be really in our face at the moment. And gentle with your heart as you move through it, following the flow. Uh, but yeah, so just feeling into your body around what's come up in relation to this speaking piece, like where in your body is really tight or bringing up fear or grief or sadness, like where do you feel this is really uncomfortable for you? And just allowing your hands to nourish that part of your body. The fear of loss or the feeling in if you're fearful of leaving, feeling in if you're fearful of others leaving you, the story of transition that you might have, any feelings of it's not fair, just letting the belief systems, the narrative come out, whatever's hiding within you to be spoken out. Isn't there another way? How can these be of service to God? Any of the polarization that you might hold, any anger or hatred you might have for the divine plan, any resistance to the divine plan, because it doesn't fit your human expression, any confusion, just allowing the confusion to surface. And on those parts of your body, you're just going to witness and acknowledge them in their feelings of the heavy, the grief, the loss, the sadness, the wanting to control, the disbelief, the lack of faith. And letting them know it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to not accept. It's okay to not want to be in allowance. It's okay to want to control. Dayande kuende inde nai sarai kiare. And it's okay to want to ensure that something that does feel true is created. To be aware that sometimes things are not accepted because you're not able to see the truth of them or to line up to the truth of them, and that is okay. So if you're feeling that, witnessing there's truth to still emerge, and that you're okay to be in the discomfort until that truth emerges. That we're going to start to see discomfort as an opportunity for awareness and growth, not to push it away or wrong it, not to be that I'm not spiritual enough, loving enough, accepting enough, surrendering enough, that at the moment I'm being in my human and this is not okay in my human reality, and that's okay. Let your human feel. Let your human be the driver for this if it needs to be. Let it lead you into greater acceptance, self-realization, to grieve, to feel, to be compassionate, to be loving, to soften. As we ask to breathe out that which we can in this moment, we're going to breathe into those points on your body, breathing in and releasing that which you can just with breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. You need to have some more breaths there. Take those breaths and allow that to move until you feel that lightness, rubbing, nurturing, being gentle on you. One of the heavier topics that you'll find in our human psyche. So you're not expected to release it in one go. You're not expected to accept it. And where you are with all of it is absolutely perfect. Thank you for your vulnerability and for that opportunity of teaching and sharing, which is another reason why I love having these moments where we get to share what's alive, because there's a lot of teaching points, there's a lot of clearing points, and we all get to feel what's there for us. This is the mirrors we provide.
Thank you.
And I just want to speak into two words specifically that you said around the end, and that is around taking accountability and ownership. So I did a transmission that was preparation for the eclipse for anyone that does want to look into it in more depth. And it was accountability and responsibility or ownership as one energy, anchoring, and then transition. And transition for this new frequency and energy. And so these points of accountability and responsibility are there. And I feel like what you said around sharing is like a real freedom point for you, sharing your journey and sharing that aspect of what's hidden in the shadows, in the energy of shame, and how debilitating shame is in the internal world. And I don't have a personal experience so much in that this lifetime. I've been on the opposite. So I've been the space holder for a lot of beings that have chosen the path of self sabotage, addiction, and substance abuse, we'll say, and learnt the thing that heals that is actually working with shame. It's nothing else. It's the energy of shame that sits there and whatever the fulfillment is. And I personally just know how powerful it is when you hold someone and you don't shame them, and everything within our recovery and addiction, most of it actually induces more shame. And I've watched many of my close beings go through this, and family don't know how to support and don't know how to hold because they actually just create more. It's like shame on top of shame. And it's like the most unhelpful way to assist someone to heal in that space.
Thank you.
And that is a good motivator. I'll just add that was my motivator. At first, the first part of the motivation journey was to be in divine union and service. So to have a loving relationship, that was my primary thing. And I was like, I will do whatever I have to do. I'll see whatever shadow I have to see so I can have love in my life. So that was my primary motivator until I made God my primary relationship. And then it was it was like the stepping stone to my relationship with God, and that service has been my motivator. So it's like whenever I wanted to, yeah, give up, or anytime my mind came in too strong or anything that was coming, it was always the thing that allowed me to step back in, move through. Um, yeah, so it can be an extremely powerful motivator, but we can't choose it also until we're really ready to, because once you choose it, and this is why my current relationship is not my current relationship is not existent. That's an interesting play on words. Is because of the not wanting to choose the cosmic path because of what that means, which was the conversations around I'd have to give this up, I'd have to give this up, I'd have to give this up. And I know that my highest path means all of this doesn't exist, and being okay with that. And it's like, okay, well, that I'm not, we can only, as you were saying, there'll be a service time where you can be with someone whilst there's a misalignment, and then the misalignment will become too much, and that stepping away will become obvious, and allow for that space. So it's beautiful that you have that. So if we can imagine it as it's like a mind loop, really. Um, There is also within your being and your body, just feeling into the energy signature of the addiction templates and feel where your body activates. So you're all holding them. Just feeling where or how many, if you ask for a number of how many addiction templates you've got. And the location of these will be the driver to what substances you tend to pull towards. So if you've got addiction templates in the lower half of your body and you've got most of them in, say, your sacral or your root, you'll find that a lot of your addictive behaviors are around the feminine energy, and feeling fulfilled, feeling loved, feeling nurtured, wholeness. So substances like Mary J and alcohol is their mother drugs or substances. I don't like to use that word. Geeia Ariati. They are the replacement of the mother energy, so connecting more with the earth. And if you can feel these templates within you, can connect into the earth and ask the earth to come up and meet them and start to disintegrate them and dissolve them. And instead, I'll ask for the great divine mother to come in and connect into you in that way. We the other, so if you've got a lot of more addictions in the upper chakras, you'll find that it will be to things like overthinking, uh, being self-abandoning, um, something that would pull you out of body. So if it was towards a substance, you'd find that that was me. I was into the uppers. I could have easily become an ice addict. And those things that would bring me into more of those angelic realms of the above and seeking of infinite knowing and the father energy, and the masculine sort of interpretation of freedom and sovereignty. So there is a lot there in relation to if you can identify the energy that really pulls your pattern of behavior. You can also look at what part of the mother or the father energy was missing or is missing in your own being so that you can start to gift it back to yourself in a way that will assist the dissolving of those templates. That will help to sort of do your own self-realization around this there in that. We will do the priestess activation, and we'll actually do a aspect of communicating with her to know what her magic is, because the priestess is the magic, the more earth magic, right? So it's embodiment. It's like body work, healing, hands-on stuff, movement. It's like the medicine of the physical vessel. That's a lot of the priestess. The high priestess is the evolvement where we no longer need to use the body to do that so much, but the remembrances come in and we're anchored into our remembrance and we can be that energy rather than embody that energy. So the high priestess has a bit more ability with the teaching of that, and it's become her. She doesn't have to necessarily interact or be in that as much for a healing way, but more for a playful curiosity adventure way, and to be a mirror for others in that. So the priestess is fun. Lots of yummy things happen with that energy, and we do definitely need to work on the shame, because the priestess is completely connected to the shame narrative. The 144 is referenced in the Bible in different aspects, and to give just for a little bit of clarity, the 144 is a DNA strand, so it's whoever has the additional DNA in their vessel that can hold a higher frequency. So they're otherwise known as the bringers of change. So I didn't use that terminology for quite some time because I didn't want to segregate, and I didn't want to play into any distortions. But it is helpful to know that it's not actually a number, because that can confuse the narrative. People think that it's a number of individual beings. It's actually a DNA strand, and it's the main one that star seeds and unified beings come in, or Elohim representatives, which is mentioned in a lot of religion in relation to gods. It's helpful to know that it's around your DNA so that you can start to work with activating it, and you can use that number as a way to assist that way as well. And it is one of those pieces that sometimes we feel we need to own to see ourselves. So to confirm that, it's like you were able to then see it and then have your family not see you in that. And that can also be like, oh, well, what's, like if no one's going to believe me, see me, then there can also be this pulling back again into that shame of not being witnessed. So I just want to, really see and acknowledge you. I don't feel that you would be alone in the narrative of comparing, is my vision as good as this person? And, this person's got such a clear insight and I didn't have that in this process and I felt really blocked. And that is, I've heard from multiple in different ways that there's this comparison and unworthiness to be here. So we're all holding that because, well, the truth is we're not fully solidified in who we are. So we haven't really remembered enough to go, that's okay, because I'm this and this is my magic, and that's this sister's magic, and we can share our magic. And that's okay. We don't have to be there just yet. But owning that magic, and maybe you do know who you are, but you haven't owned it. And that would be the difference. That would also help this space start to, because when one person owns it, then it opens that energetic opening for others to start to see it. So um, it's beautiful that you shared that, because I feel like it's also a common thread and a theme, and that's why we're journeying together. The other aspect is, yes, it's really hard to go, oh, I created shame on top of shame. I did that also. I had to sit with some pretty uncomfortable things when I realized my brother had drug-induced psychosis and was in and out of hospital for years, and I ended up not knowing how to cope with it. And my pattern of behavior was I was all in or all out. And I just got to a point where I was like, you're not my brother. And I just cut him off completely. And that it was too destructive for our family, too destructive for my heart. And I just like completely like left. And it took me years to see what was actually at play there. And it was that everyone in our family was like, there's something wrong with you. You're the problem. You're the toxicity in our family. We need to fix you. Your addiction, da 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 da. All of those narratives in all of the different ways that they were there did not allow for any of us to take accountability for ourselves and how we played into that, and also created shame on this one person who was the scapegoat and the blame point for the entire dysfunction of everything. Guess what? When he wasn't in our family, did our in relationship in our family dynamics improve? Not really. So we can like, I don't know what my family's come to realize with that, but I know that for me, I moved through a healing process where um uh, I ended up in deeply in love with someone, and I didn't know that they were very strongly in addiction. And I was already so deeply in love with them. And I was at that point in my journey where I was really strong based on my previous history. I was like, no drugs, no alcohol, not that's not aligned for me. And so I was like, what the hell? How the fuck did I manifest this? Like it was like I was already so in it that I could not like and so aware. I remember him sitting there and he just had a bong, and I called my friend and I was like, I don't know why I'm in Cairns. I'm in love with somebody who's a complete stoner, wakes up and has alcohol at 10 a.m. I'm like, Spirit, there has to be a reason. Like, what are you trying to show me? And it was actually the most beautiful journey, heartbreaking and beautiful and loving and beautiful. And so he was deep in his cycle, and um, I learned to let go of judgment. I learned to let go of any of the stings when things would happen. I was like, okay, this is what he's choosing. Is it true for me to be here? Yes. Do I need to engage in those behaviors? No. What is my truth here? And how can I hold and anchor myself and be loving? And how can I love him in his tools, in his choices, in what's supporting his nervous system? And honestly, the most beautiful being in and the way that and I always have seen, I always seen beings that have struggled with that I see their souls a lot and I see a lot of pain that's under it. And I mean, everyone who's had addiction knows that addiction is some level of suppression of pain and as well, right? So I was already super well aware. And what ended up happening was it got to a point that it did start affecting me and my life and my nervous system and things because of how empathic I was. And what I received from Source was you have a choice point. You can offer a space for healing for this man to choose 110% with his being with these specific boundaries, or you have to walk away. And I was like, whoa, that's like really big. And so what I did was what felt true was not to walk away. And I offered a space where I basically stopped my life for 3 months. And he left everything in his life for 3 months and he came and lived with me. And we went through some level of rehab, I guess you could call it, where we worked on all of the trauma that was driving it and uh, holding love and compassion for each other. And I can genuinely say he taught me how to love someone in all of their stuff. And so, and not to, and how to communicate without creating shame. That was a really big thing of how do I communicate to people without creating wrongness and projecting and saying and just learning to listen. So, um, yeah, it can be really beautiful to see like where am I? Like seeing myself in a distorted lens and where have I not been loving, right? And wanting to heal, but was I really healing? And what part of me needed to be healed in those situations that allowed for that to play out? So it's a big it's a big, beautiful opportunity to maybe do a little self reflection there as well. Beautiful beings, thank you all for your presence today. Let's close out the space now just by shutting our eyes and taking 3 deep breaths in acknowledgement, breathing in and out as we start to release ourselves from this energy, breathing in, having love and gratitude for all the healing and the mirrors and the reflections. And letting this space go. Dayato ariate anai. Oh. Closing down all the protection fields, closing down everything. Giving thanks and acknowledgement to all of the beings that supported us. It is done, it is done, it is already done. I love you, I love you, I love you. On mwah.